Well, hello, everyone. We're very, very privileged to be sat in the office of the Deputy Speaker, Nigel Evans, who's a great friend of mine and a great parliamentarian. I'm sure many people in Parliament would agree, and also in the country. Thanks, Nigel, for agreeing to be interviewed for GBS. I'm sure the students will be very interested in learning about your career, the beginnings of you, and some advice for how important education is in their lives.
Oh, wonderful. What a lovely introduction, Stephen. I don't think I've had one over 31 years as lovely as that.
Well, friends, eh? So, Nigel, GBS students, they come... Generally, they come from non-traditional routes, and many of them are adult students, returners, and lots of vocational education. So we're interested in, I think, is how come a South Wales boy becomes Deputy Speaker and surrounded by all this lovely accoutrement, and so can we pick your brains a bit and get you to kind of talk to us on where did it all begin?
Yeah, mine's got to be a bit non-traditional as well. How come this Swansea lad didn't end up down the mines? As opposed to sitting in the big chair in the chamber of the House of Commons and conducting the debates as I did, as I do every day now. I started in actually a very working class area of Swansea called Town Hill. And my grandfather had this newsagent shop. So what I was able to do, and you've got to remember, growing up in the 1960s and 70s in Swansea, right? There's no internet, no mobile phones. There's no 24-hour rolling news. But we did have access to all the newspapers. And so I used to go downstairs into the shop, grab all the newspapers, take them upstairs, and over a cup of coffee, tea, read all the newspapers. And I just got this interest in current affairs from, it's almost accidental, to be honest. I was interested in politics, but I never thought in a million years I'd ever end up doing what I consider to be a dream job. I can't wait to get out of bed every morning and see where the day takes me. It's fantastic.
Would you regard your beginnings as a working class or a low middle class?
Oh, no, working class, definitely. I managed to pass the 11 plus. That was the exams that they had in those days to get to the grammar school. And I think I was fairly marginal in even passing that. And that sort of gave me the step up. I always saw myself as a bit of a late developer, to be honest. But nonetheless, I managed to get to university. I did study politics, but the vast majority of people who study politics end up doing other jobs like journalism. One of my mates was a deep sea diver in the North Sea. That's how he took his politics degree. So I was I was the only one. It was me and my politics teacher. We both ended up becoming MPs. For different parties.
Different parties. Well, I'll come back to that in a minute, different parties. I studied English literature, and I hooked up a few years ago with someone who studied with me, who now runs an ostrich farm in South Africa. So you never know where it's going to go. So is there still, or was there, people have always told me there was, or maybe still, a Welsh emphasis on education?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's to be able to elevate yourselves through education so that you can end up doing something else rather than perhaps what your father did and your grandfather did. But to do that, Stephen, I used my education to do what my father and grandfather did, but with the assistance of my family, it gave me the flexibility to be able to get onto the local authority, which I did for 6 years. And then it gave me the flexibility to be able then to seek out a political seat somewhere. Now, being a Conservative and being from Swansea wasn't an easy journey side by side. But nonetheless, I said to my mother, because I did fight my local seat, and I like to say sometimes it fought me, but I didn't win. And then I fought a by-election in another part of Wales and I didn't win. And I said to my mother, listen, I'm desperate to become an MP, so I'm going to have to move out of Wales. I'm going to have to travel somewhere. And she said, you do what you need to do. And so I applied for a few other seats, and eventually I got the seat that I'm currently in. And there was a by-election to begin with because the former MP became leader of the House of Lords, and you can't sit in the House of Lords and the House of Commons at the same time. So he had to relinquish the House of Commons, and there came the by-election. And that's the 13th safest seat in the country. And I thought, even I can't lose this one. And I did.
Yeah, you lost it.
Yeah, it was the poll tax by-election, they called it. It was all about funding local authorities by putting a local tax on each person in an area, and people didn't like that. So anyway, that tax got dumped. And a year later, I won the general election when John Major was Prime Minister, with a majority throughout the country of 21. And I've been there ever since, and my majority has tended to go up every year now. So I'm very pleased at how it's eventually turned out.
Yes. Well, I was going to say, we'll talk about your Ribble Valley constituency in a minute, but so a couple of things. There is another a great Welsh politician, Neil Kinnock, of a different political persuasion, and didn't he memorably say, "I'm the first Kinnock in 1,000 years to go to university," which is it was a great statement, I thought, at the time.
Yes, and I think all his family have gone since.
Yeah,
so.
and one of them married a Danish princess or something.
Yeah, indeed, and he's a member of Parliament here now. Yes. So it's the way things go.
Yeah,
you know, I once said to Neil Kinnock about somebody who else was Welsh and how much he was earning. And I said, he's earning £500,000 a year. And I thought he'd be fairly critical of that, being a good socialist. But he turned to me and said, "Nice to see one of our own doing well."
It's great, isn't it? That's great. So I know you're very well regarded by your constituents. And so the question, I suppose, is what, apart from shouting at each other, what do MPs do? Because some of our students might not really know what an MP does day to day.
Well, it's sort of multitasked, really. Number one is to represent their constituents in Parliament, and that's so that the people elect them, and so they make sure that their voice is heard. And normally it's heard because the fact is they voted for you, they know what platform you're standing on, and so you do tend to ensure that government policy, if you're on the government side, is you've been voted to get that through, and so you speak up for it, and because it's in the best interest of your constituents. Not all of them, not the ones who didn't vote for you, but you got the majority of votes there. Then the other thing is to talk to your constituents. They come and see you at things called surgeries, like a doctor. But instead of saying, "I've got a bad knee," they say, "I can't get my pension sorted out. There's a social security benefit I haven't got, or my mother's in hospital, she's not getting the right treatment. I want a bus through our village, please. Can you get that sorted? We've got potholes in the road. Can't you get them filled in, Mr. Evans?" All that sort of stuff is to help them with individual problems, which you can either do through working with the local authority or working with government ministers. So it's multifaceted in the way that the job is. And I was with a journalist yesterday, and he said, "What's a normal day like?" And I said, "There's no normal day. Every day's different." You know, and so if I wasn't doing what I was doing now, I'd either like to be presenting a children's TV program called Blue Peter, or being an astronaut. I said, because I just want to do something that is different. And how you said about the people who didn't vote for you, presumably you meet them on a basis they come to the surgery, and do you have any, and are they antagonistic, or do you? Well, some can be, and I just have to say, listen, we're going to have to agree to disagree. So, like on leaving the European Union, I was very much in favour of voting for Brexit. As you can only imagine, on the referendum within the Ribble Valley, it was 57% to leave. 43 not, right? So I was on the right side within the constituency, but still 43% is a lot of people. And so I meet them now and again, and they say, "I think you were wrong about the European Union." And I say, "Well, listen, we have to agree to disagree on this. But if there's any views you want to be made known, despite the fact I disagree with you, I will still send your views on to government ministers so they know what you feel."
That's a great kind of grassroots democracy, isn't it, really? It's the
you're not going to represent 100% of the people. You just simply won't be able to do that. But democracy isn't about that. It's about putting forward arguments to the people at general elections. And for then the governing party that wins under our system, first past the post. So it's a bit more clear than a lot of other countries where they have proportional representation, and a lot of the horse trading goes on afterwards. And so So part of my job is just ensuring that I represent the views of what is a rural constituency. We also have aerospace manufacturing there as well. And so I get asked all sorts of questions, sometimes about Qatar. Are you happy? I'm a gay man. Are you happy about your close association with Qatar? And I say, well, listen, they buy military aircraft in my constituency. They have huge sovereign funds throughout the whole of the United Kingdom, providing thousands of jobs. And I say, it's a step-by-step approach. They may not quite be on the same page as me on every policy, but I rather like the Qatari people I know. I certainly do like them. And I say, and when we chat about LGBT rights, they say, I understand that, Nigel. And it may take a bit longer in our country. And if you think back, Stephen, on LGBT issues, in the 1950s, it was illegal in Britain. Gay marriage is a relatively new phenomenon. And you still can't get married in the Church of England if you're gay. So, there's still a bit to do here.
So tell us also about the role of Deputy Speaker. What is it? I mean, I kind of think I know, but some of the students might not know what a Deputy Speaker does and what the Speaker's...
Well, the main thrust of it is to sit in the chair and... when the Speaker can't be there for 12 hours or whatever it is that the House may be sitting that day, so there are 3 deputies, and we get elected by every MP, and so when the Speaker's not in the chair, we have a rota that we have, and I don't know if you can hear the bells of Big Ben ringing in the background, which is lovely to hear. Absolutely superb, because we've been renovating the clock, and it took 4 years to do the whole tower.
I remember,
and so my job is to sit in that chamber and to conduct the debates. And so I get points of order. I get to choose who speaks next in the debates that go on. I conduct the votes. I read out the votes at the end of the day. And it's just to keep order. I mean, that's the one word that I say more than anything else, and I actually end the procession, at the end of the day, the process. I stand up and I say, the question is that this House do now adjourn. As many of that opinion say aye, or the contrary no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order, and then that's it. That's the end of the proceedings for that day.
Do you have to tell people off a lot?
Oh, I do. It does get you say they shout a lot, and mostly that happens like during statements or urgent questions, or during questions to the Prime Minister, which is I compare to gladiatorial Rome. It's when it's the big epic thing that we do, but mostly it's not like that. When there's stuff legislation going through the House of Commons, there may be 40 people in the chamber, not 650. And they tend to be a lot quieter, better behaved, because they want people to listen to their speech as well as listening to other people's speeches as well. But it's a bit of banter, which you've got to, when you're in the chair, you've got to, you don't want a total silence. You want people to feel as if they're taking part in a debate. And one of my favourite stories was when one Labour MP stood up, and there's certain things you shouldn't say in the chamber, and he stood up and he pointed at the governing side and he said, half the people over there are crooks, Mr. Speaker. And the Speaker said, order, withdraw that comment now. You cannot accuse the governing side of being crooks. And he said, okay, I withdraw that comment. Half the people over there are not crooks. And everybody laughed, and we just moved on. So you just got to get the mood right. It's a bit like a referee on a pitch, or football or rugby. The best referee you don't notice is there.
I think that's excellent, but how is it so you're a Conservative Party MP, how do you become impartial? The role itself, obviously you have to be impartial, but...
well, everybody in the room knows I have a political opinion. And I will be fighting the next election as a Conservative MP. The Speaker will be fighting as the Speaker. The first thing they do when they are elected Speaker is they tear up their membership of their political party. The other deputies don't. It can be difficult now and again, Stephen, but people know I've got views. But I think they respect the fact that I'm going to retain those views back. And I don't go on TV and do interviews and say, well, I believe this legislation is right or wrong. I don't comment on policy when I know it's coming before Parliament. I maybe comment about process because I'm involved in the process. I'm involved in the parliamentary side of it. but not policy. And so I'm very, very cautious about that. So I think people would be hard pushed to tell you what my views are on anything that they read about in the newspapers.
Yes. I mean, as I said, in the introduction, I've been with you many times in House of Commons, and I'm always astonished by the affection that people have from all sides of the House. When you walk past, when we walk along corridors, there are Labour MPs, SNP MPs, there will be Plaid MPs. Everybody will have a kind word with you and a friendly word with you.
I think it's the same with the Speaker and the deputies as well, because part of our role as well is pastoral. It's to know that a lot of MPs have got a lot of stress. The Twitter sphere and social media is not a nice place to be at times, and people feel a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I sit here and I have other MPs sitting there and they tell me some of the issues and I talk it through with them. So it's them knowing that, they've got a shoulder here if they ever need it, and they've got a year here as well, so that they know that somebody like me who's been an MP for 31 years knows exactly what they're going through.
Yes, yeah.
So, and also they know I enjoy this job. It's for me, it's like if I was a footballer playing at Wembley, if I was an astronaut, it would be like stepping on the moon. For me, going into that chamber and sitting in the chair and conducting debates, it's the pinnacle of where I want to be.
Of course. Well, we've got some questions that are quite quick fire. These are kind of to get to know you a bit, I suppose. So, tea or coffee?
Tea, about 18 cups a day.
Yeah, that's me as well. I think Tony Benn probably outdo us, but apart from that, deadlines or prevarication?
Oh, definitely deadlines. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm a person who knows that something needs to be done. Got to get it done straight away.
Morning person or nighttime person?
Do you know, both? I get out of bed at 6 a.m. and I sometimes go to bed after 12. Depending, I get very long days and I don't need much sleep.
Really? How much sleep do you get then? 4
or 5 hours a day.
Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, similar to Margaret Thatcher, but that's the only similarity between me and Margaret. She was an incredible Prime Minister. And
did you meet her?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I loved it. She didn't have much of a sense of humour, right? But I don't want my Prime Minister to have a great sense of humour. I just want them to be great. And for the moment that she was there as Prime Minister, I thought she achieved so many great things.
Yes.
And particularly as the first woman Prime Minister of our country. Of course, we've had some more since then.
And they've been conservatives. Perhaps we shouldn't have.
Some longer live than others.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. That's part of the rumpus of Parliament.
Yeah.
Cinema or TV?
Well, it's mostly TV, and I got Netflix and Prime, so I watch a lot. I'm not one for schedules, so I'm not riven to being somewhere at 6:30 or 7:30, and I've got to watch that. I'd rather do my own schedule, and so I do a lot of movies and TV via YouTube and all that sort of stuff.
Anything good lately?
Not anything particularly brilliant, but I was telling you about being an LGBT person, and there's a couple of series called the Young Royals and Heartstoppers, and I think they are both groundbreaking television series that you wouldn't have seen 10 years ago. Never mind, they're now on series 2 of these programs, so I've watched those, and I think that they are incredibly mold-breaking.
Yeah, we're living interesting times in this respect, aren't we? And heartening times, I think, by and large. Football or rugby?
A bit of both, but I've just come back from Rome and saw Wales beat Italy, but what really heartened me on this, how people are, completely warriors for their own side. Italy played incredibly well on Saturday, and what was heartening at the end when the Italian team toured the stadium, the number of Welsh fans that stayed and applauded the Italian team for showing their bravery and resilience. So I thought it was absolutely spectacular.
Yes. I think that's why I generally prefer rugby, I think, in a way, the kind of the crowd. Is,
but it's the Welsh roots as well. I was once asked when I went for selection for this seat in England as a Welshman, they call it the Norman Tebbit cricket test.
Oh, yes.
That if you come from abroad and you come and settle in England, who do you support at cricket? And I was asked that sort of question about sport, who would I cheer for when England are playing Wales? And I said, I will cheer for Wales in rugby, but any other sport I'm not particularly bothered about. And I've got no problems, by the way, when England play any other country, I'm 1,000% behind England, because they have done incredibly well, including the England women's football team.
Of course.
Absolutely spectacular.
That was astonishing last year, wasn't it? It was so good.
Yeah.
Yes, I once was speaking to a banker who said that he particularly Welshmen who on their CVs always said they were captain of their rugby teams, and he would say it into he'd say, "How come none of you just played in the team? You're all captains." So have you got a final message, Nigel, to GBS students who are studying at the moment about shaping their future and ambition and that kind of thing?
Yeah, Stephen, when I was growing up in the shop, stacking shelves for my father in this working class area of Swansea. And, when I was 17 and 18 doing that and thinking where I wanted to be. And if you told me the mountains I had to climb to get to where I was, what would I need to do? Well, in my own head, somehow I was driven to do that. And it's to have that drive and not to think that there is a glass ceiling that will stop you at any stage from getting to where you want to be. Now, the political graveyard, yes, is full of bodies of people who started the journey and then decided that they were going to settle down with somebody they'd just fallen in love with and have a family. And then all of a sudden they're earning a bit of money and then it just passes them by. For me, that never happened. And I was focused on what I needed to do. And I never took the advice that you're either too young or you're not good enough to be where I wanted to be. And so my advice to everybody is to, yes, work hard and focus on education as being the foundation for what you want to do next. Yeah. And then to make sure that if where you want to go, never be told that you can't go there, number one. Doesn't matter whether you're gay, whether you're a man, woman, where you're from, what your religion is, you can do it. And so if the door is open, you walk through. If the door is partially open, you push it open and go through. If the door is closed and locked, which some people think it is on where they want to go, kick it down. Do not give up. Do not walk away. And I once received a message from somebody when I first got elected, because I stood a few times and lost a few times, and I lost that by-election famously in 1991. And this little frame appeared in the post after I got elected for the first time in 1992, and I opened it. And it said, if Christopher Columbus had turned around, nobody would have blamed him. And nobody would have remembered him either. Yeah. And I thought that was such an amazing statement that I could have given up. And yes, I could still be stacking shelves in a shop in Swansea. Yeah. But I didn't, because I never gave up. And you can see in the background there, I've got a little piece of a bridge from Ukraine that I was given by some Ukrainian MPs. It's a glass bridge that was blown up by the Russians. And they've given me a segment of it. And at the bottom, it just says resilience and the Ukrainian flag. And so my big message to any student, irrespective of where you want to go in life, resilience and never give up.
Splendid, splendid advice. Thank you very much, Nigel. It's been a great pleasure. And I'm sure your final words of advice, particularly, will be absolutely heartening to the students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it, Steve.